So this is going to be my last video for this week. This week has been difficult. It's been kind of hectic, and I know that there's a lot going on, so I kind of wanted to take Friday off, come back with the thoughts and ideas that I had planned for this week, and I'll apply them to next week. And also, I don't know if the Summer of Gaming event or the events that were planned for next week are still going to happen. We'll see. I have some thoughts about that, but I'll cover that next week. For today, though, I want to talk about The Last of Us Part 2. And really, I've wanted to talk about The Last of Us Part 2 for the last couple of days. Really, for almost a week since that new gameplay had come out, I think last Thursday or Wednesday. I forgot when it was. But I wanted to talk about it very, very briefly. I already did a video talking about The Last of Us Part 2. I think a couple of months ago, it was a video game analysis on The Last of Us Part 2. But I kind of wanted to take that new gameplay that was shown off on Friday and go over that. Some of the most important lessons that I've learned this year from playing video games have been from Doom Eternal, both from watching interviews from Hugo Martin, the game director, and obviously playing the video game itself. I've learned a lot from Doom Eternal, and when Hugo Martin, I forgot what interview he was talking about this in, but he was talking about how in Doom 2016, the team was inexperienced, the team was a little bit timid, the team wasn't necessarily as confident in their abilities to create video games as they were in Doom Eternal, and that showed in their ability to craft a great game, great levels, and also to execute upon their ideas in the final product of their game in Doom Eternal. Apply that same logic to Naughty Dog. Some of their ideas, some of their concepts, some of the things that they've implemented into The Last of Us Part 2 are because they are a way more experienced developer, and on top of that, they've had multiple games do very, very well, not only critically, but also commercially, so they have that experience and they have that confidence under their belt. How does that translate to the game itself? Well, when you go back and when you play Uncharted 4, you have these levels where the game takes a lot of the core mechanics of the game, the climbing, the grapple hook, even I think the pike that you have to rock climb, and it implements those mechanics into some of the levels, especially later on in the game, unfortunately. But it implements these mechanics later on in the game in these levels, especially in the jungle levels, where you're using the climb, where you're climbing around and you're using the grappling hook to traverse from platform to platform, and you're shooting and you're running, and like you're doing all of this really, really creative stuff in the game that you never really thought that you could do. And that's kind of been translated over to The Last of Us Part 2. You have this very, very wide open arena style of levels that it's up to you to determine how exactly you tackle these levels. Do you necessarily go in and go this route? Do you go to the right, or do you go to the left, or do you take out the person in the watchtower? What materials do you use to craft certain things and certain weapons and items and things of that nature? Like, the gameplay for The Last of Us Part 2 is synonymous with Uncharted and even The Last of Us, the original one, The Last of Us Part 1. They haven't necessarily taken out core mechanics from The Last of Us. The game, the UI, everything looks very, very similar to The Last of Us Part 1. What they've only done with this game is they have enhanced upon their core mechanics and then added some other mechanics as well, like the jump button, which, yes, there was not a jump button in The Last of Us, and even though you're not Nathan Drake and you're, scaling these huge mountains, you're able to move to a different area of the level because of your ability to platform, which you did not have in The Last of Us Part 1. One of the weird things that I've had to experience in the last couple of months is just the weird, slander that's been committed against The Last of Us Part 2. And with so many people now getting their review copies for the game, I think last week or on Friday or Thursday, I can't remember when they got it, but a lot of people are coming out and they're saying that this game is awesome, which is exactly what I thought the game would be when the game was released or the game was announced, and it had gameplay trailers for it and it had E3, and the leaks, they didn't worry me at all. Neil Druckmann even talked about how, there are leaks with The Last of Us Part 1, there are leaks with Uncharted 4, for some weird reason, Naughty Dog has horrible leaks when it comes to their games, and he's like, it didn't affect sales. I think sales for The Last of Us Part 2 have exceeded Spider-Man PS4's, that game's pre-order sales. People are still excited for the game. I just can't believe some of the things that people have said about this game and the way that people have talked about this game when the gameplay is still there. This is gonna be one of the best games of the year, potentially one of the best games of all time. And no, I haven't played it yet. I've just looked extensively at all of the gameplay that they've showed off in the last 2 to 3 years. This has been 24. Remember to like, comment, favorite, and subscribe for more. Until Monday, I hope you have a fantastic day, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.